March 27th, board business meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Thank you. Our land acknowledgement. Tacoma Public School acknowledges that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and historical lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Puyallup Tribe. This acknowledgement serves as a first step in honoring our nearest tribal neighbors and partners who have inhabited this region since time immemorial, and to whom we give thanks for allowing passage to their lands. We shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. General Counsel Penrose, can you call the roll?
Yes. Vice President McElroy,
Here.
Director Keating,
Here.
Director Leon,
Here.
Director Bombright.
Here.
We have quorum.
Item 5, adoption of the agenda.
I move to adopt.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I forgot to ask for questions. Any questions? All right, cool. Item 6, recognition of staff, students, and community. Item 6.1, recognition of the Shining Star Community Partner Award to Community Care Connections.
Good evening, Board. Amanda Scott Thomas, Director of the Community Partnership Office. It's good to see you all. So Directors, Superintendent, Dr. Josh Garcia, my favorite person, the rest of my beloved community. I'm with the Community Partnership Office, and it's my pleasure to award on this evening our March Shining Star Award. As you all know, Tacoma Public Schools defines partnership as a cooperative relationship between students, families, the schools in our school district, as well as the greater Tacoma community. We partner committed to supporting student academic success and, of course, success of the whole child. Partners work with and invest in the education of our children and youth, whose future in turn will affect the quality of life in the entire Tacoma community. When it comes to student success, Tacoma Public Schools recognizes that we cannot do it alone, and in recognition of an investment of time, talent, resources for TPS students, families, and staff, the Shining Star Community Partner Award signifies honor and thanks to a community partner who has made a difference by doing what is best for kids. Tonight for you, we have Sue Nygaard. She is a TPS retiree who continues to support all of our students with her passion for student success. Sue served many years with Tacoma Public Schools in our Head Start programs, educating and mentoring. Sue, via her nonprofit organization, Community Care Connections, provides food and support to families with the community and has made McKinney-Vento a program focus over the last several years, and they donate various items from hygiene kits to much-needed clothing items. The McKinney-Vento office wanted to especially recognize Sue and her team and organization for their continued quest to meet our most needed items for the McKinney-Vento program. Over the years, she consistently reaches out to ascertain what the highest need items are, and she and her team work tirelessly in community to procure those goods based on the needs that are communicated. And while educating our community about McKinney-Vento and our unhoused population, some of Tacoma's most vulnerable students, we want to thank Sue Nygaard and her team and Community Care Connections for all that they do. Can we give them a round of applause? And we're going to have Sue come up. You can all come up. You do, congratulations.
So, I am Sue Nygaard, which she talked about, but I am just a member of the team. I'm like the only one that doesn't have an official office. I'm just me. We have our president of Community Cares Connections. We have the director of our board, and we have our treasurer of the board. So Mary Sanders, Dave Sanders, and Ann Hamilton. And so I feel kind of embarrassed that my name was on top of all of that because I just help out. But I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to continue to be part of Tacoma Schools because I've been a part of Tacoma Schools now, this certainly doesn't say my age, but for over 65 years. And so whether it be a volunteer or a student or a teacher or whatever, and I feel that, you know, it's really an important part of what I do. So happy to be here. And does anybody else want to say anything?
You do it very well.
Okay. So now do we go up and shake hands?
Go up and shake
All right.
She's been in TPS for 6 years. She doesn't look a day over 30.
All right. I have it. I am the purse whisperer. Gotcha. Thank you. Let's give her another hand clap.
Thank you. Item 6.2, recognition of Seth Balderson, Silas High School, as the WIAA 3A Boys Swimming and Diving Champion in the 50-yard backstroke adaptive.
Madam President, Madam Vice President, thank you. I am here on behalf of the Director of Athletic and Activities. Tonight we are here to celebrate a state champion. Mr. Seth Balderson is a freshman at Silas High School. Seth, are you here? Can you come on up, please? Let's give Seth a round of applause. Congratulations.
Thank you.
He's joined here by his principal, Miss Bernadette Ray. Seth is like I said, a freshman. He competes as a member of the Silas High School boys swim team in our adaptive events. He qualified for the 2025 WA 3A boys swim and dive championships with the time of 36 seconds in the 50-yard backstroke adaptive. And he won the state championship in this event with a time of 31.79, a remarkable drop of over 4 seconds. Wow. And as someone that has always struggled with swim, I am very impressed. Very congratulations. In finishing this event in a time of 31.79 seconds, Seth not only set a new WIA state meet record, and that's a state record.
Wow.
So not only a state champion, but a state record, ladies and gentlemen. That also deserves a round of applause. But Seth wasn't done. Seth was not done. He also participated in the 50-yard freestyle adaptive event, finishing second. He lost to the state champion Levi Steers of Stanwood by only 0.17 seconds. Whoa. So yes, it's okay. Remind you all, Seth is just a freshman, and so he has a couple more years. So tonight we'd like to congratulate Seth on his state championship. Congratulations.
And item number 6.3, the whole child educator recognition.
Madam Vice President, we are here joined by Dr. Forrest Greek to recognize some of our fabulous team members, our custodial team.
Thank you so much, members of the board and Dr. Garcia. This month, we get to recognize our custodians for the whole educator recognition. I'm going to turn it over to our custodian supervisors, and a couple of them are here in the audience, and they have a couple folks that were recognized specifically. I will say, I think when we started whole educator recognition, if I recall correctly, Matt Monet, who's spent about 15 years in the school district prior to his role now as a custodian. And I think I had him come up here and recognized him, and so it's kind of a full circle moment for him. And so it's pretty amazing opportunity to do this. Go ahead, Matt.
I thank you, board, Dr. Garcia, Dr. Nolan. This is Kenny McCollum. He's our newest supervisor. And I want to thank you for the honor of being able to ask some of our custodians to come up and be recognized and seen today. The whole of our body are great custodians all the way across the board. So it was really hard to choose who needed to be here. But these are some of the people that immediately stood out. So I'd like to say their name and have you stand up, please. Phil from Geodrone. We have Irina from Stadium. Trina from Whittier. And Sarah from Soda. All of them have done things above and beyond what's expected for them and are leaders in our custodial community and people that I'm all happy to call friends. So, thank you. Can you guys come on up, please?
Yep, they should come up.
And as you folks are transitioning, I just want to give you a big thank you so much for everything you do. Our buildings look fantastic. These are jobs that oftentimes don't get a thank you. Oh, you get to stay up there and get a picture. Hold on, no, you get a picture. You get pictures, get pictures. One more big round of applause. Thank you guys so much.
Bravo.
Thank you so much.
Item number 7 on our agenda tonight is the superintendent's report, starting with 7.1, Education Funding Information Series.
Madam Vice President, I'd like to, we have quite a few updates tonight, so I'd like to first invite Mr. Williams up to give you a quick update about some of the concerns that we heard at the last board meeting around some of Bernie's water issues. So he just wants to give you a quick update, and then we'll do the funding series. I'll have our student reports, and then I want to give you a couple more updates if that's okay.
Yes, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you. Just wanted to provide the board and the community an update on the Bernie Round building. I know that there's been some concerns that have been brought to the attention of the board and the community. I think it goes without saying that if you look at our facilities department, the board, and the district as a whole, we take the safety and security of our staff extremely serious. It's a priority for us, and it will continue to always be a priority for us. I believe I spoke to the board in April 2024 about some key next steps when it came to the water quality at Bernie. These key next steps were not requirements. These are things that we did beyond that was recommended or required for us to do. In May 13th of 2024, about a month after the board meeting, we repiped the Bernie Round building. What does that mean? That the pipes that run from the main line, water line, to all the fixtures in the Bernie Round building were replaced. The work started May 13th. It ended in May, I believe May 30th. General Mechanics conducted that work. It was $90,000 that were allocated to complete that. You can say that the pipes in the Bernie Round building are newer than the new Bernie that was completed, I believe, in 2019. We also took an additional step, and I believe in September 2024, we actually added a water bottle filling station. One of those are present in the Burning Round building. In addition to that, I know I have personally went out there and my staff have filled up water bottles, and there's no signs of discoloration at Bernie. In addition to that, I know that there was concerns about a strong odor that occurred at the Bernie Round building. We've partnered with the city and our internal staff, and the city gave us some recommendations. And one of the major recommendations was to cap the sewer lines. What that means is to take it and just close them out. What that does is potentially limit any odor or smell to come up. And that work was completed this week. I know there was a work order that was placed last week. The vendor that completed that was Drain Pro, I believe. So that work is completed. It's important to note that Bernie the round building is an older structure. If you look at circulation and compared to our newer construction, it's never going to be the same. It's a lot of older buildings throughout our district and Tacoma. Some of the protocols when you have odors or to increase ventilation is to open up windows or crack the doors. Right now, there is not a functioning HVAC system at the Bernie Round building. We're ordering parts. If you can imagine, the mechanics in there are 40, 50 years old. So kind of tracking down those parts to make it operational is a challenge. Right now, there's mounted heating in the building. So we will continue to look at providing and securing the building as best as we can. I think it's also important, and you saw that our custodians are here. We have a lot of hardworking custodians, maintenance, all the way to planning construction that take a lot of pride in their work. And safety and security is a priority for us. So I just want to recognize that it's a team effort, and we take these concerns very seriously. So if there's any questions, I'm just going to open it up.
I think the only thing else I would want to add to that is we work very closely with Pierce County Health Department. So if Pierce County Health Department, and you know this, and many of you are here all the way through COVID, we take our orders, we don't make independent decisions. And so when the Pierce County Health Department says if something is clear or healthy, or if it needs to be fixed, we don't question it, we do it. And so all those records have been communicated. We've also communicated with our families at Bernie this past week. Principal Ronnie Fullerton has sent out messages working with our communications department. And as I've gotten emails, I've also communicated with the families about what have we done in this past year. My final piece is I just want to ask a clarifying code because I think it's my understanding the odor is coming from the new building and not the round building. Is that accurate?
Correct.
So that's a little subtlety in that space. And so the odor is not actually in the round building. It's in the new building.
I don't believe anyone has, you have a question?
I have a question,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
You mentioned that they capped some sewer lines. Is it standard to sometimes leave them uncapped for some reason, and now we're capping them for the
So-
smell, or what is the standard? Why would they be left uncapped?
Well, there's actually two caps on there. So there's one that's over it. This is an additional cap that the city recommended that we provide.
So normally they're capped
Yes.
once, and this is double capped.
Correct.
Okay.
Every building has to be inspected and signed off on. So this is an extra measure.
Thank you.
I just want to say I want to thank you, Chris, and your team for this time last year or close to this time last year and the responsiveness to the concerns and the continued responsiveness of your team to the concerns that folks have brought forward, whether it's at Bernie or anywhere else in the district. So I just want to thank you all and your team for the dedication and the commitment to the work that you all do.
Yep,
Thank you,
Alright.
Chris.
Sure, thank you.
thank you. You said after Chris's update, we'd move into the superintendent's report and the student representative reports?
We'll do the funding series next, if you're okay with that, and then the students, or students and then the funding series.
Do you guys want to go first?
I always like students first.
I
right?
think so too.
I think they're the best.
Okay, there's not like much of note right now, but yesterday we had one of our showcases yesterday, and that was always fun to watch. I got to do some stuff for it. And then we had some new trips announced for next year, but unfortunately, due to like lack of people signing up, we're only doing Nepal next year, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's okay. And then also on Wednesday, we had a staff Legally Blonde, which is our musical for next year, and that was really fun to see and like a good fundraiser because there's like a lot of really talented people in like our staff members that aren't even part of like our performing arts area of our school, which so that was really really fun to see. Our prom theme got announced. Our theme is Masquerade. our new building is almost completely done. We got the hair salon that's connected to one of our buildings, so that's exciting. They got our co-directors were able to have like a lot of say on how it's done, so I'm excited to see how that turns out. And then we've been discussing how our camp next year is gonna go, because we're not doing overnight camps anymore. So we've been like planning on what it's gonna look like next year, and it seems quite fun. That's all I gotta say.
All right. So for Lincoln, this past Saturday, our drumline hosted the largest, one of the largest drumline competitions. It's called Lidfest, and I think it went pretty well. And I think the Seahawks Blue Thunder, they came to perform, and then I think UW also came. And I think right now we have around like 70 students on a Mount Rainier, I think it's like a retreat. So one thing that's really big at Lincoln is, or it's been becoming big, is like explorational science. So I think it started last year, and we're going on our second year of sending a group of students to Mount Rainier to learn about the environment. And then we have our Spirit Week and Pep Assembly next week. So I think, yeah, it's going to be Dr. Seuss themed. So we're kind of clinging on to our last bits of youth before college.
Never lose that youth.
And it's very exciting. I will be needing to shop during the weekend to get my outfits, but yeah, I'm very excited. And that's it for Lincoln.
Thank you both.
Next, I'd like to invite our CFO, Ms. Rosalind Medina, up. Nope. I'm going to not invite Ms. Rosalind Medina up. I'm going to invite Mr. Kari Kottman up to give our funding series.
Great. Well, thank you. So I know this is the exciting part of the agenda tonight, and why we have such a large crowd here is to hear about our funding series. This is number 5 on transportation funding. Let's see. Okay, so this is a refresher slide again, that we have these separate checkbooks, we'll call them, for our funding sources. And even though I'm going to be sharing with you about the transportation fund tonight, I'm not going to be talking about transportation vehicle fund. It's a separate checkbook, and that checkbook is used just to purchase buses. Not for anything else, that's it, or major repairs for buses. But that's all that checkbook's used for. Instead, I'm going to be talking about, from the general fund, how we're funding our day-to-day operations in transportation. Here again is just a refresher slide, recognizing that 72%, almost 73% of our funds come through the state, and that's where our transportation funds come through that same area. Again, these are the different buckets, the major buckets that we talk about for funding, and tonight is the transportation funding, which I'll focus on the formula there. So our transportation funding really comes from 4 major components. Ridership comes on the 1026A form through the state. About 92% of our annual funds come through that process. We use what's called the STARS formula, and there's a workbook, an online workbook. We enter in all the information, and at the bottom of it spits out the amount that we're going to get at some point. The second one is the safety net, and this also comes through the state. This is a smaller percentage, only about 5% of our annual funding comes through that. OSPI allocates extra dollars for special passengers, and this might be, this could be anybody that's not on a bus. So it's kind of help out with that. Now, unfortunately, the way the funding model is that if we spent, I don't know, $1 million on other ways of transporting students into our district besides on a yellow bus, they may only fund us for $200,000 of that. There's a pool for the entire state, and every district applies for it, and whatever the pool is, there's kind of a ratio that they use to give us some kind of a payment for that. So The in lieu of is something that's not for every district, but for ours it does work out. The reason we receive the in lieu of is that normally when we buy a bus, we get a depreciation amount that goes into our TVF fund, that extra checkbook that was up there earlier. Because we have First Student providing transportation for our students, they actually receive that money for the buses, but we receive money for the operations or paying for those services through First Student. So this in lieu of doesn't go into the TVF, it actually comes to us to help our general fund and pay First Student for their services. And the last one is grants and various agencies that we do receive funds through, and that's less than 1%. An example would be the EV buses, which if you hadn't heard, yesterday we had a ribbon cutting, and Director Bondbright was there as part of holding up one of the ends of the ribbon for that. Pretty exciting to see. First Student has 14 buses that they are implementing right now. We've also received a grant for 2 buses for our direct fleet. And those will be happening sometime next year that we'll get those EV buses in. So all of this information that I'm sharing tonight you can find on RCW 28A and so forth, and WAC 392 and so forth there. So if you ever wanted to look at the reference for those. Any questions on these 4? Okay.
You make it sound so simple.
Well, I
It's
certainly wish
really
it was
convoluted,
simple. It is very convoluted, and you'll see as we go through here, the main area that we have about ridership that we receive on that 1026A form, that's the one I'm going to talk about the most. That's through that STARS program. 92% of our revenues come through there. So STARS stands for Students Transportation Allocation Reporting System. There are 4 different areas of calculations that we could receive funding from. You'll see there's A, B, C, and D here. The first one is the calculation of expected allocation. So STARS uses a regression analysis to come up with coefficient that also goes with coefficients.
When you're done, could you maybe break down a little bit what that all means for those of us listening? That would be like, what does it mean to regression analysis?
So regression analysis takes, how do I want to explain it? So it takes all the data that's available and looks at that data based on kind of a weighted formula as well to apply how much it's going to apply to each component that you're going to get.
Okay, thank you.
Now, that may or may not make sense to most people. It also, in a way, doesn't make sense to us because we don't know what the regression analysis is as we fill out the STARS information.
And it's been very difficult to get any clarity on how they come up with this. Correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're jumping ahead of my slides,
I'll
but
stop. I'll pause.
yes. So we enter information in, again, things that we know, and I'll show that on the next slide here. The alternative funding system, that's a way of looking at school districts who may have low ridership. So even though they might have, I don't know how many students they have, but if their ridership is low, they may need additional funding just to cover some of those basic transportation costs. We do not qualify for that here. Other adjustments might be for an alternate calendar. Schools who have or districts who have a different calendar system for the year, they receive additional funding or a change in funding. And then the last one is just to know that the final determination is really based on that student count. Remember years ago where we would send something home to families to say, please make sure everybody and their brother and their dog rides next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because we're going to do our count. We're no longer allowed to do that. But what we do is during 3 different times of the year, we take 3 days, and of those 3 days, we average out whatever the ridership is, and that's the number that we get to use. And that's in the spring, fall, and winter. Now, if you look at kind of the wording here, it's a little bit unique in that the spring is from the prior year spring on that number that's used. So it's kind of an overlapping count that we get to use for that. It also is adjusted every February, which you'll see that's a problem for us as a district as we're trying to budget for our year. So because it uses this spring and then fall and then winter numbers, in the first half of the year, we receive money from OSPI based on what the kind of the estimate is, or based on last year's estimates. In February, they true up that number based on ridership and the regression analysis. We don't know what that's going to be, and so every February something changes. As you'll see a little bit further in here, this February there was quite a dramatic change that we were not planning on as well. So after all that's done, that's most of it. There's another formula in there that we have an adjustment for salaries and benefits that comes through the legislators, and then that gives us our actual funding amount. So here, this is another way of kind of explaining it. The input for in the STAR system for the reported amount that we get, there are these basic items: the land area, the average distance that we have, number of destinations, basic programs, which is our general education riders, and special programs, our SPED, McKinney-Vento, and so forth, and then that high-low ridership, which we don't usually qualify for. We enter those values in, and they're weighted based on the ratings I put on the right-hand side there. It's like the number one most weighted item is the basic ridership, or our general education riders. That has the biggest amount of impact on what we receive. And then 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once all those come through, we then have this coefficient rating that takes place, and that compares us to other school districts that are in our cohort. And that cohort may change every year. So it's not every school district out there, it's the cohort that we're a part of, and they change those based on sizes to have similar sized schools being evaluated the same. That gives us a calculated value. Now you ask, how does all that work? We have nicknamed it the black box. We have asked OSPI several times to explain to us how it works, how we might impact that for our district, and we've not been able to receive an answer to how our actions can influence that. We've not seen the behind-the-scenes working of it. We've asked for that. We've asked other school districts. They don't understand it either. So it truly is a black box for us. Things go in, something comes out at the end, and we're not quite sure how it all gets there.
And I just want to add that there has been an acknowledgement over the last, at minimum, 2 legislative sessions from legislators that the STARS formula is broken. They may not always use the word broken. Some have used broken, but it definitely is not an accurate or an accurate way to calculate. And unfortunately, for those that are listening, it takes an act of the legislature to change it, from my understanding, and there isn't, so far, that work has not gone very far. I think that would be fair to say.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
No matter how much the disparities of the funding gaps that continue to increase, there still is very little willingness by the legislature as a whole to address this issue.
Yeah, I think one of the subtleties I hope folks at home understand is even if the calculation is consistent, the variable by OSPI to continually change the cohorts on a yearly basis adds another variable of a lack of predictability. So just understand the complexity of it.
This next slide is a snippet from the actual report, the 1026A report. And you can see those areas I talked about, the land area, the average distance, destinations, and so forth. To the right of that is the values, and those values for us don't change much. The coefficient rate, then a calculated value, it comes down to a sum of those calculated values, which is compared to the A.2. Which is the expected value. Then the expected allocation value. There's a couple other adjustments that could be made, which normally don't happen for us. In this case, this was last year, a year ago, 16.4 million was the calculation that came out from the black box. Then on top of that, there's the additional, in this case, almost $400,000 for the salary and benefit adjustment. So that was a total of 16.8 million last year. So take a quick snapshot of that in your mind as we go to the next slide, which is this year. And we can go just kind of the very bottom here. This year, instead of 16.8, it's 15.8 million. So let that sink for a second. It's $1 million less than last year. Now, if you look at the values, land area, our land area has not changed. Look at the average distance, and that's for a student to get from their pickup spot to the school. That distance was a little bit shorter. And part of it's because last year when we talked to OSPI, they said you need to become more efficient. And as you know from last year, we looked at doing a tiered bell system. That's one of the ways to make it more efficient. We implemented that. Our goal is to save about $1 million. We're not quite there, but we're on target for getting close to that with some other efficiencies that we have. So average distance is one of those. Number of destinations, we had a couple of destinations that we collapsed in, so we have a few less destinations. But our basic program, so our general ed ridership has increased. Our SPED ridership has increased as well. So with those increases that we've had, staying equal and so forth, our number is now 8.176. I'll just go back to the other screen. Before it was 8.248, and that's also a number that's been used for our with our cohorts, against our cohorts numbers, which, as Dr. Garcia said, we don't really know how that works and when it changes each year as well. So we got more efficient. We got funded $1 million less. We're not quite sure why. And we certainly had not planned on that. This is a summary. Oh, did you have a question?
Is part of this intentional lack of transparency, possibly because the OSPI doesn't want districts to game the system? They want to try to analyze things without districts making alterations to, take advantage of something, or is it really something else?
I generally don't believe so. The STAR system has been around for a long time, and I really have the best intent for folks, and that it's been through so many leaderships that I don't think that people are trying to do that. It's a broken model that needs, and it's a very expensive model in that space. And so when you take the cohort, you have a fixed amount that you've dedicated towards that cohort, and you're putting people competing against each other for those. And so as somebody else, maybe in Pierce County, for example, gaining more kids, they're going to need more resources. And so resources are basically, the pie is being split in different ways on a given year. So even though we got more efficient and have more riders, we're competing against each other, and that's just not the way you do business in that space. And so the way I understand it historically is it was written a long time ago. I think the formula is lost in some kind of black box in reality, and it needs to be scrapped and started all over ago. It's outdated, but I don't genuinely believe that somebody's trying to keep it a secret.
And I would just add that this, having the STAR formula addressed, fixed, modified, whatever language is most appropriate, has been a standing position for WASDA for a number of years. Like, this is a statewide issue. This isn't just a Pierce County or a Tacoma Public Schools issue. So there has been significant amount of input to OSPI and the legislature around the STARS formula, well before I joined the board in 2019. So this has been an ongoing problem that I think there was momentum to address it, and then the priorities of COVID took over, and so it's just we've not been able to get the legislature back to a place of prioritizing addressing this in the ways that, and the significance of the impacts that it's having on our district and many other districts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think too, kind of back to your question, so we have reached out to OSPI, not trying to game the system, but figuring out what can be the most influential impacts in a positive way. And, consistently the message has been become more efficient, get more kids on school buses. That's the main thing you need to focus on. So that's what we have been focusing on in a general way.
I think our ridership went up like approximately 5%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that alone in a district of 27,000 kids is significant. And so that should result in more income, not $1 million less. And so that's our frustration. We are getting more efficient, not only by reducing miles, stops, but we're increasing ridership, and it's just not making any sense.
And
So-
the problem is because it's a zero-sum game within the cohort. Is that what you're saying, that, so?
It's more complex than that, but I'm just like at a very simple level,
So this one slide's kind of shared with you. Our budget team does a phenomenal job of budgeting for our district, and one of the areas they have to budget for or forecast for is what we're going to receive for our transportation funding. And they've got an idea of kind of how to interpret what goes into the black box and what we think is going to come out. They're usually pretty close. So here was the 23-24 allocation. The budget we had was 16.7 million. And we actually received 16.8 million. So we were pretty close, and it's been like that historically. Again, we focused on those efficiencies, reduced routes, increased riders, reduced other costs associated with that. Our budget team this year calculated they thought it would be 18.8 million we would receive. And excuse me, like Dr. Garcia said, we would expect with our ridership going up, fuel going up, and those things that we would have an increase. The reality is that, and we just found this out at the end of February, is that we're going to receive 15.8 million. So $3 million less than what we budgeted. And that's $1 million less than what we received last year for the same thing. So you can imagine it's a little frustrating for us, tight spot financially where we are anyways.
I would describe it as more than a little frustrating. So I just, in that context, especially, on the verge of where we are and where the legislation is and where our fund balance is and the tightness of the things, and it's beyond a little frustrating. So apologize for interjecting.
No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, and you're right. This is one of those years where $3 million has a significant impact on our financials this year. This is the last real slide that I have for you. Shows our financials for the last couple of years. And one of the other struggles we have is knowing that our costs are more than what we're going to get funded. So after we came out of COVID at 21-22, our expenditures were almost $500,000 more than what we received in funding. The next year, it was almost $4 million more than what we received in funding. The next year, it went up about 4%, which is kind of what you would expect it to with the cost of fuel and labor and everything else associated with that. We were still $1.5 million short for getting funded for our entire transportation needs. When you look at the budget amount in that kind of boxed out column there, again, we were showing about a 4% increase. And during that, we thought we were going to be doing pretty good there. Only $270,000 short of the funding that we had. Back up one column there, and you can see that our forecast for the year based on this updated amount that we received, we're going to be $2.7 million short getting funded for the entire thing. So again, kind of patting people on the back in our transportation group. If you look at the cost on the expenditure side, for 23-24 versus 24-25, it's basically no increase in cost. And that's with labor costs going up, fuel costs going up, and we've been able to maintain our costs same as the prior year. So, I mean, phenomenal that our team's been able to do that. And yet we're still going to be $2.7 million short this year. Any questions?
Shared frustration?
Yeah.
More of a comment?
Yes, let us know how we can be helpful.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Kari.
Thank you, Kari. Superintendent, did you have more to add?
I have less slides, but I have a few more comments. I know that Director Keating is going to give us a federal update later, so I'll save all that good news for later in that space. I want to remind folks that Beyond the Bell registration is open now, so those is a pay-as-you-choose model for all of our elementary schools. Please go on the website and sign up for that. If you didn't get a chance, it's going to come out in our family newsletter. We launched a new podcast. It's called Tales from the Grit. I got a chance to listen to today. Some students, some community members. It's a new series. It's part of our My Now, My Future. It's great. Check it out. It's on the website. And there's also a great letter from the College Board about how to plan for college. So I really encourage you to see that. But listen, or you can watch on the YouTube the podcast. It's about 30 minutes. It's a great opportunity for there. I want to give a really thank you to President Strozier and our TE President Angel Morton. We co-wrote a letter to the legislators. We sent it out to all the state legislators. It's on the website. It articulates our beyond our concerns of where we are. It articulates our anticipated $30 million shortfall and that we need extreme help. We didn't just send it to the Pierce County delegation, we sent it to every state legislator. So if you're a community member, please go on the website and get a chance to see it. It shows you what we're asking for. It's your state legislative adopted agenda. Nothing has changed. It's not like we're changing our message. We've been very consistent. You can see that we are not wasting money. We're being more effective and efficient, right? You have a $20 million budget and where you're going in a transportation when fuel costs are going up, everything is going up, and we're running almost a zero-sum game, and we're still getting penalized. Something has to change outside of Tacoma to help us. So I want to, once again, I want to thank President Morton and President Strozier for their help in there. I want to remind some folks, all our folks during this difficult time, we are going to stay true to a few things. We know we can't do this work alone, and we are committed to partnerships. That is never going to leave our DNA. And so even as we think that we know that we're going to go through this difficult spring and this difficult time, you know, we may have to get smaller, but we're going to need partners more than ever. We don't do this work alone. You guys know this. You have partners coming into your schools all the time. Amanda works with partners. Every department works with partners. We need our partners, and we're never going to lose sight of that. And so even as I'm making difficult calls with partners, I want to let you know that we're going to keep on working with them. It just may look differently in that space. We're going to continue to focus in on producing good, safe, and engaging outcomes for our kids. So even through this spring and even into this next year, that is going to always be our focus. Even when it's hard. We've been through hard times. And that's what we do. We stick together and we focus in on our kids because they need us, and that's why we came here. And simultaneously, we're going to make this a great place to work. And it is a great place to work. You know that because you've been in our schools and you work with amazing educators, and I call them educators because whether they're our custodians or safety and security, they teach kids at all different levels. And so even though the spring will be difficult for us, we're going to keep it as a focus to make it a great place for kids to work. I want to give you a quick bargaining update. As you know, we're in contract negotiations right now with 3 of our valued labor groups. You know that we believe that bargaining shall be market-driven. This means we obtain comparable market-driven from our surrounding districts as well as the top 10 largest school districts in the state. You know that we want our wages and our working conditions that attract and retain the best talent, not good talent, the best talent for our Tacoma students. We want them for our kids. And in the light of the budget situation, we will make sure that we do everything that we can responsibly do to pay those wages. Because we are working on budgets right now for the 25-26 school year. We want to have as much certainty as we possibly can about how much we need to set aside for staff wages, benefits, and working conditions. Our district's bargaining teams have already made wage offers to all 3 of these bargaining units, and we are committed to bargaining in good faith. We are communicating updates as we progress together. You and every community member can see these bargaining updates on our district's internal and external web pages, and we will continue to communicate with folks. It's tough. It's tough not only in the schools, it's tough in the workforce. We're not alone. This is a tough time. We have to treat each other with compassion, with empathy, respect. We have to model what we want our kids to see. We have to be patient with each other. All around, from the dais, from the community, and we will. Tacoma is a beautiful place. We love each other. We will treat each other as Tacomians. Tomorrow, President Strozier and I have an amazing opportunity. We are going to go and attend the signing of a 10-year MOU with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians and 13 local school districts. As far as I know, it's the first one in the state. It's a commitment to how we collectively will serve our Native American students. I'm so honored to participate in it. So look on the news. Hopefully it'll hit there. I won't wish everyone spring break because we'll be back together next Thursday. But I do hope everyone can get some rest this weekend. So that is my report tonight.
Thank you, Superintendent Garcia. Does anyone have questions for the superintendent before we move on? Great. Item number 8, staff report to the board. There is none. Item number 9, members of the public wishing to address the board. General counsel, how many?
We have 9 this evening.
Awesome. All right. School board members encourage public participation. Your civil input is appreciated. Board members will not respond to your comments during this meeting. The superintendent or a designee will follow up with you after the meeting if action is needed. Instead of speaking at a meeting, you may also send an email to the board at board@tacoma.k12.wa.us. Please contact the board office in advance of a meeting for disability accommodation. Under Board Policy 1430, Public Comment, the board president may terminate an individual's comments when the allotted time has passed and may interrupt a speaker to require the same standard of civility that the board imposes on itself. Examples of uncivil comments include comments that are libelous or slanderous under a legal standard, are unwarranted invasions of privacy, are obscene or indecent pursuant to the Federal Communications Act or any rule or regulation of the Federal Communications Commission, violate school district policy or procedure related to harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination, incite an unlawful act on school premises or violate a lawful school regulation, or create a material and substantial disruption of the orderly operation of the board meeting. The board as a whole has the final decision in determining the appropriateness of all such rulings and can maintain order by removing those who are disruptive. However, the board recognizes the distinction between uncivil discourse, which it will not tolerate, and comments about the board, district, and/or staff that are negative yet still civil in nature. The board will exercise its authority to maintain order in a content-neutral manner. There are 2 options to participate in public comment. You can write in or verbal comment. For verbal comment, the general counsel will call your name. When is your turn to address the school board? Please speak into the microphone. You may have up to 3 minutes to share your comments, or if there is a large number of speakers, time may be limited at the president's discretion. Seeing as we have less than 10, I will not be changing the time limit. And general counsel, you can call the first speaker.
Yes, our first speaker is Emmett Jones, followed by Nizair Coleman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Emmett Jones, and I'm a parent of 3 Tacoma Public Schools students. I work for the district as well as a special education ESP, and I am also a transgender man. When the new administration started signing executive orders in January, everybody I know was very worried for the safety of our students. Thankfully, OSPI and the district are doing everything they can to protect our kids. At work, I continue to see the same respect and consideration for all students that I've been seeing for years. Tacoma Public Schools has worked very hard to build a culture of inclusivity, and I'm proud to be part of it, which is why I was very concerned when I watched the footage of the school board meeting 2 weeks ago and heard several speakers who want our district to ban transgender girls from playing girls' sports. The argument for this hinges on the idea that trans girls have a physical advantage in competition. It's obvious that physical differences between people exist and can lead to competitive advantages. Basketball is a good example. The average height of a WNBA player is around 6 foot. The average height of women in the US is about 5'4". But no one tries to ban tall athletes from basketball because of their physical advantage. Transgender people like myself make up about 0.5% of the population. Trans women and girls are about 1/2 of that half. Do we need to protect 50% of student athletes from the possible competitive advantage of 0.25% of student athletes? That's the justification for these ideas of sports bans. And the true effects, though, are much more real and very damaging. When we deliberately target or exclude a specific group of people, it sends a message to everyone that some people are worthless, some people do not deserve dignity and respect. And in this case, it amplifies a message being broadcast at the national level to our trans youth that they cannot be seen for who they are, they cannot expect respect, dignity, or even safety. No child deserves to be treated this way. And Tacoma, this can never be what we teach. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Nazaire Coleman, followed by Gabrielle Favre-Kosian.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Nazaire Coleman. I'm currently a senior in high school in Stadium High School. I'm so excited to graduate. So first, I want to talk about my experience with Beyond the Bell, since I've been doing Beyond the Bell for a while now, since freshman year. Currently, I'm a senior, so I'm now doing Elements of Education, and I work in Gregor. So I would like to express my how these programs impacted me as a person and make me like a better communicator and a team player with others. So I feel like leading the program in Elements helped me gain leadership, project management skills, and guiding others. All programs helped me refine my communication and teamwork skills. Throughout the program, I've grown as a leader and learned how to handle I've grown as a leader and learned how to handle my responsibility on my own. What inspired me to become a teacher was the opportunity to engage directly with students and seeing the impact of mentorship. I always was a babysitter when I was like younger, and I feel like being with kids helped. I don't know, cause like my mom, I was like, "Are you gonna ever have like another kid?" She's like, "No, don't ask me to give you another kid." But I always wanted to have a sibling to build a bond. I want these kids to have a bond with with everybody else in the program. Ooh, hold on real quick. And so, the job opportunities have provided practical experience that had helped me apply classroom learning in real world situations. These experiences has strengthened my academic and personal development, preparing me for more complex challenges throughout life. Being a part of this organization has made me realize the enjoyment of helping students reaching their potential, how teamwork is important, and my desire to pursue education as a career. The skills I've gained, whether in leadership, time management, or communicating, made a lasting impact on my growth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gabrielle Favre-Kosian, followed by Ria Melverd.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Favre-Kosian, and I'm here to speak against the WIA Amendments 7 and 8, and I ask that you carry my concerns and interest to the interested parties. I moved here last year from Texas because my wife and I wanted our kids to grow up in an inclusive and welcoming community. We knew absolutely no one here, but I've already felt fully welcomed here, and I want that same feeling for not only my kids, but for any and all kids in the community. These amendments only target a few children, but they send a message to all LGBTQ kids in the school system here that they are not welcome and that the community doesn't want them there. These kids face enough without going through school, without also dealing with adults picking on them. But thank you for your time, and I really urge you to carry the concerns on. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rhea Melvard, followed by Rachel Dial.
Time for something a little different. So I don't have anything to complain about, actually. My child, Morgan Melvard, goes to Mann Elementary, Title 1A school. Last year, she was one of the worst students in the school. Trouble all the time in the office of Dr. Thompson, Milagros Thompson. If you've met her, she's amazing. Trouble all the time, constantly in the office. In 1 year's time with Dr. Thompson and Miss Furr over there, and with the PTA, and just how welcoming people have been towards me, a trans person, just trying to do the best for their daughter. This year she's in SAIL. She got tested for Rainier Scholars this year. She is looking to go into SAMI to be a zoologist. She has done all the Beyond the Bells. I have been the parliamentarian for the PTA. We have busted our ass to show growth that you could only dream of in a child, because these schools have done so well being supportive. I came from Levine, Arizona, where little rural town, being trans, not a thing, not okay. So to be able to go to the school and do walking school bus and do a Scholastic Book Fair and the dance that we had last month and all these cool events, while feeling safe in myself, has created this dynamic with my kid where she's proud to become a leader because she sees me active. She's proud to help other people because she sees me speaking at events like this or speaking at city council meetings. So when Mothers for Liberty or whatever comes here to say that it's about kicking trans people out of school sports because it's fair, has nothing to do with equity or fairness, or else they would have been on this long ago. What you're doing is you're sending a message to kids and adults that they are not welcome in your schools, whether they're transparent like me, or they're, LGBT folks from other states like Texas. We are part of your community, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that the future of Tacoma, whether it be through Point Defiance Zoo or otherwise, is taken care of for your kids' kids. We are in this together, and when you start cutting communities out is when you start to fall apart, as we're seeing on a national level. I think that holding strong and doing a damn good job, like you guys have been since I've been here, continue the course. It's about to get really rocky, but if you keep moving the way you are and supporting these LGBTQ families and students, you will see growth like you have never seen, because people will want to come here. That's my time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rachel Dial, followed by Jenna Judge.
Hello, my name is Rachel Dial. Sorry about that Y. It's very confusing. I live in the Stadium District of Tacoma, and I'm here I tried to make this positive, so I'm here to support the continued inclusion of trans kids in the Tacoma school sports. I'm a registered dietitian who works primarily with people with eating disorders and disordered eating, both of which occur more often in trans populations, in part due to increased discrimination stress. After reading the proposed WIAA Amendment 7 and 8, I believe both of them, if they were to be adopted or supported by the Tacoma School Board, which it does not sound like that would happen, but if they were, I believe they would contribute to the othering and discrimination of trans kids during a very important period of their lives. I work with a lot of teenagers. I'm so glad I'm don't have to go through that experience again. It's a very challenging social, as you all know and probably know better than me, very challenging time. And so to ostracize a group of people during that time, or any time, but especially during that time, I see some of the impacts of that in my work. So I would ask you to continue to support the inclusion of all of our community's kids in every way that it sounds like y'all are already doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jenna Judge, followed by Val Middleton.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's my first time coming to the school board. Hello. Yeah, I came because I'm really trying to do a better job of like aligning myself with my values and finding my voice and kind of speaking to those values when I have the opportunity. So I do value belonging and inclusivity and fostering that like at all parts of our community. Did I say my name? I'm Jenna Judge. I live in Tacoma. Sorry, I never really fully grew out of the awkward teenager phase. I'm still finding myself embracing dimensions of my own identity in my 30s. And just like imagining, like just like other speakers have said, how hard it is to be a middle schooler or a high schooler and find yourself, find your people, like find your interests, and like to have anything that's like hindering a student's ability to do that just because the letter on their birth certificate might not line up with their true felt sense of themselves, frankly seems like ridiculous and cruel. So, and I'm seeing nods. I feel like there's like some same pagedness here, but like in general, just want you all to, just it's very important that we hold on to our values, especially in this time when like we're being bombarded with pressure or like threats of funding being yanked and just like all kinds of games and from the, the current federal chaos machine that we're trying to just like survive through. And so just want to encourage you all to, like others have said, keep doing what you're doing, creating spaces of belonging for all students, every student every day right in front of us. And also, I do have 2 degrees in biology, and like human variation is incredible. Biology is amazing. Like, it's just our variation cannot be contained by this, like 2 letters or whatever, however someone is perceived to be when they first come out of the birth canal. Like, it's people. Every individual is so much more than that, and I really want to encourage you all to keep nurturing our students to embrace their full selves, love themselves, and be loved and supported by everyone around them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Val Middleton, followed by Mitch Falk.
Hi, I'm Val Middleton, and I'm a former teacher. I did my student teaching here in Tacoma Public Schools. And I've worked with kids for the past 2 decades, also as a sports camp counselor and high school basketball coach. I'm also here in support of our trans students. And I just can't express how ridiculous and upsetting it is to hear that Moms for Liberty has shown up and have expressed such hateful and very upsetting comments. Excuse me. I just want to remind everybody that this is a tactic that they use, that the far right has used to elicit the fascist policies that we've seen building momentum, particularly in the last decade, and we've seen implemented in other states and at the federal level. We know that when one small group is attacked, we're all attacked and we're at risk. We've seen this in the loss of reproductive health care at the state and federal level, and now with talks, I believe, in the Senate about revisiting current protections for gay and interracial marriages. So they are coming for all of us. Hateful groups such as Moms for Liberty use these wedge topics as a strategy to manufacture fear and eventually take board seats to launch their far-right political careers. They don't actually care about students, and they don't care about youth sports. And it's one of the many strategies we've seen that's gotten us to where we are today with the House, Senate, and the presidency. Students should be able to come to school and feel safe to be themselves, and it's your job as board members and members of the greater Tacoma community to continue protecting all of our students regardless of how they identify. It is up to the student, their families, medical professionals, and other trusted adults to support them with taking steps to help them express their gender identity in ways that feel good to them. Don't fall for these tactics, like Tumwater School District, in believing that trans kids are a threat or don't belong. Protect trans kids at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mitch Falk, followed by Beverly Allen.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Mitch Falk, and I'm a concerned community member and an advocate for equality. And tonight, I would like to speak on the quote-unquote issue of transgender youth participating in sports. Currently, I know that the Tacoma Public Schools allow all students to participate on sports teams that align with their gender identity, and I am here to encourage that the board continue to uphold this policy. Recently, you guys have heard several arguments to repeal inclusivity in sports, locker rooms, and bathrooms, presenting the exclusion of transgender children as a necessity for the protection of women and children. But to that I ask, then who is protecting the trans girls? Where are they supposed to feel safe and included? I think that we as a community need to be focused on protecting every part of the next generation, and not just the children that we personally like or agree with. And in a time of near daily attacks against the transgender community across the country, adding to the isolation and ostracization that these children feel within our schools would be no way to move forward. This so-called debate has not only been blown grossly out of proportion, but has also been riddled with misinformation that is, at best, purposefully misleading. Let's not forget that for several years now, every major medical association in the United States and leading World Health Authority has supported social transition and eventually medical care for transgender individuals. Let's not forget that trans athletes have been included at the Olympic level since 2004, that in 2024 there were only 10 openly trans athletes in the entirety of the NCAA, representing less than 0.00002% of competitors, and that there have been only 2 openly trans champions in the entirety of NCAA history. So let's view the idea of trans domination in sports as what it really is, a fabricated reality that has been peddled by politicians to present transgender people as a ubiquitous threat. Imagine for a moment that these inclusive policies are repealed. How then do schools go about enforcing them? Which children are going to be safe of being suspected of being trans? At what point is a girl considered too tall, too muscular, too fast, too strong, too athletic to be accused of not being cisgender? Enforcing any sports restriction would, in turn, force the implementation of policies that will police all girls' bodies. Furthermore, the exclusion of trans girls will directly lead to the enforcement of deeply misogynistic and racist standards for all girls' bodies. I am invested in cultivating a supportive and safe environment for all children, and I'm just encouraging that the board continues to do the same. I think we all believe that children have a right to feel safe and secure not only at home and in the classroom, but also on the playing field, and that absolutely includes transgender children. They want the same things as any other kids, to feel loved, included, cared for, and to have spaces where they matter and belong. And I believe that it is our job as a community to protect their right to those spaces just as much as any children's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker for tonight is Beverly Allen.
Hi, good evening, members of the school board, and good evening, Coach. Beverly Allen, and I brought my daughter Lydia with me. She goes to Franklin Elementary School. And I wanted to share my remarks in support of trans athletes. I think, in terms of the 1% of the population, that's a lot more than 1%, I think, of my friends and the people that I love and care about. And one of the reasons why I enrolled my daughter in public schools is because of Tacoma Public Schools' reputation for inclusivity and for really focusing on kids and coming from a place of love. And I think nationally, a lot of us are experiencing fear for a lot of different reasons. I think the fear is hitting us from a lot of different directions, and it's very chaotic. But one of the things that the fear is doing is also bringing together community. And I think we see that today with the community. What I heard, what brought me here today, is hearing that there was a group of folks that was not made up of parents of public school kids, not from our community, but that wanted to introduce that outside politics of fear and excluding kids. And that is not our values, and that is not the community's values. So I want my daughter and I want her friends, I want the community to grow up knowing that no matter who they are loved, they are supported, they can focus on their education, they can focus on sports. I don't think that they should have to worry about whether they fit someone's notion of what a girl is or what a boy is, or even what a person is, right? Because there are plenty of people that don't fall under that binary. And I think that we need to support those kids as well. And when kids are not supported, we know that they have bad health outcomes. We heard that already from a dietitian in our community, but we know that mental health-wise as well. These are kids that are at risk of hurting themselves, and that is an outcome that nobody wants. So in order to ensure that our kids succeed, that our community succeeds, we need to continue to support those policies of love, inclusivity, and we need to focus on what really matters, which is our kids, and getting the resources to support our schools in general, like we heard today. That's a top priority. So let's not get distracted. Let's focus on education. Let's focus on love. Thank you.
Thank you. General Counsel, is there any?
That concludes public comment for this evening.
All right, item 10, consent agenda.
I move the consent agenda.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 11, policy matters. Item 11.1, the second reading of revised policy 2412, diplomas for veterans.
The General Counsel, on behalf of the Director for Schools, recommends the Board of Directors adopt the revised draft of Policy 2412. This is the one we discussed last board meeting for the first reading. If you click into the attachment, if you're looking at page 3 and 4, you'll be able to see the red lines that have been made since the last board meeting. We met with Director Von Bright and our members of the Equity Policy Review Team, and Dr. Hostetter, who brought this proposal our way. We made a number of changes since we had spoken before, including adding some specifics around the Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs. They have an application process for veterans who had to leave school because of military service to receive a diploma. So we try to make clear that they've got to follow that process through the Veteran Association. Then they bring it to the superintendent of the district, who can then work with the director of schools to issue a diploma for the eligible veterans. But that's the only changes, those are the only type changes you'll see from the first reading.
I move item 11.1.
Second.
Any questions or comments about this? For this, is it policy? Do we call a roll for it?
It would just be a regular vote, no roll call.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. Item number 12, the financial report. Do I have to read that? Love that.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to give you a quick update and just fill you in on a few things. The legislature did release their initial budgets this week. Full impact to our school district is still in the process of being determined. I just saw some rough numbers this evening. It's positive only in the impact of it's not necessarily a negative. Like, there's no big windfall of resources that'll be coming to us. But there are some highlights in the bills. So both the Senate and the House released their bills. We started looking at those and just trying to identify where we'll have some impact. In our district, there will be a decrease in retirement. What that means is that the amount of resources that are needed, the percentage on retirement for each person's pay is going to decrease. Doesn't mean that people don't have as much retirement in the future. It just means that the amount of contribution that's required will go down. And so that'll actually be a considerable savings in the Senate budget and a little bit of a savings in the House budget, depending on which numbers they end up going with in the end. The implicit price deflator, which we had been quoting at 2.6%, has declined to 2.5%. Because we don't get full funding of the implicit price deflator, so that's a cost of living adjustment for the general public that are out there. That's a cost of living adjustment on salaries. But because we don't get full funding from the state for every person that we have, but we have to apply that implicit price deflator to every person that we have, we actually have to pick up an expense associated with that. So having that be a small decline actually is a benefit for us in that respect. We'll have a little bit of a less that we'll have to pay for every person. Health benefits increased about $135 per person per month. So that's several $1 million of impact for health benefits. And then there's just a very modest increase in the materials, supplies, and operating costs. This was one of your legislative priorities this year. There were some bills early on that looked really promising in the legislature, but those seemed to lose steam as the legislature progressed through. So we're finding that we're not going to be seeing a very large increase for materials, supplies, and operating costs. There are some SPED funding increases. They're happening in two places. There's a bill or two that are out there that are still alive on SPED, as well as what's in the actual budgets. And so we're still doing an analysis on SPED. I don't have formal numbers, but depending on the circumstances of which bill you're reading and where they end up going with it, there are potential implications that they'll remove the limit of how much funding they'll provide. Of course, we're below the limit currently, so that won't actually have an impact for us in current year, but that's good news for districts that do see that be an issue. They've got this multiplier and a tiered system of how they provide resources. That may potentially be going away or be increased in the resources that we'll be getting. And then there's some other modifications to special education. So still many bills in play, still a number of things that we don't know, but we're working towards trying to achieve understanding on. Right now, it appears to be a positive impact, but very negligible at that. Sine Die is April 27th, so we should be hearing quite a bit more over the next several months. They also have been working, the legislature, on a number of revenue package components. And that doesn't have really an impact necessarily on Tacoma School District. One of the bills that is being pushed through the legislature is a bill on increasing our levy capacity or allowing us to tax our local taxpayers. It's problematic from the perspective that instead of the state picking up their burden, I'm bringing my own personal opinion in on something, but I feel like I've earned it. Instead of the state picking up their burden and their share of the costs associated with education, they want to make that part of the burden of the taxpayers and local districts. So for Tacoma School District, because we have already got a voter-approved levy for 2026, the implications for any kind of increase in 2026 would not be eligible for us unless we were to forego our levy for 2026 and ask our voters to apply for a new levy. That's a very risky situation. We're probably best served in waiting and going out on our regular levy cycle, which would be in February of 2026. We would go and ask our voters for a renewal of our 4-year levy. So something for us to consider internally, but probably not a likely meaningful scenario for us to worry about. There's some other legislative revenue packages that are rolling around out there that don't have such an impact on us particularly, but I just wanted to bring that up. And then as that relates then to the 25-26 budget development, we are anticipating before the legislative impacts a potential $30 million roughly of impact. There's still a number of components and calculations that we're doing to see where we're at, but that is what we've targeted as far as cuts for next year and in light of where we're at in our current fiscal year. And the primary drivers associated with that would be continued increases in discretionary costs, which would be, material, supplies, and operating costs, legal bills, insurance bills, electricity bills, food costs, those sorts of things, as well as just our natural wage increases that occur as people move up the salary schedule each year, fewer people retiring because they make good money and we have a great environment here, and also because we have offered negotiated salary increases to keep our market wages in check. So that's what I had to share with you this evening.
Does anyone have any questions about that? Hearing none, you can always go on our website at www.tacomaschools.org/department/business and finance if you want any more updates on that. Thank you so much, Rosalind.
Thank you.
Item number 13, curriculum and instruction, there is none. Item number 14, business matters. Item number 14.1, approval of SolarWinds software renewal from May 19th, 2025 to May 19th, 2026.
The Deputy Superintendent, on behalf of the Chief Technology Officer, recommends that the Board of Directors approve SolarWinds software renewal from May 19th, 2025 to May 19th, 2026. Funding source, Technology Levy Fund.
I move item 14.1.
I second it.
Any questions about that?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Here, yep, it passes. 14.2, approval of interlocal agreement number TSD-25-045 between Puget Sound Educational Service District and Tacoma School District number 10 from April 1st, 2025 through August 31st, 2025.
The Chief Financial Officer, on behalf of the Director of Transportation, recommends that the Board of Directors approve interlocal agreement number TSD-25045 between Puget Sound Educational Service District and Tacoma School District number 10 to provide transportation for McKinney-Vento students, funding source transportation budget.
I move item 14.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? It passes. Item 14.3, approval of bid acceptance between Construct, Inc. and Tacoma School District number 10 for the tenant improvement project at Tacoma School of the Arts, SODA.
The Executive Director of Planning and Construction recommends that the Board of Directors accept the bid between Construct, Inc. and Tacoma School District number 10 for the tenant improvement project at Tacoma School of the Arts, the Ted Brown Building, in the amount of $1,033,150, excluding sales tax. Funding sources capital bond issues, as approved by the voters in February 11th of 2020.
Move to approve 14.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. Item 14.4, approval to negotiate and award design-build alternative method contract with Cornerstone Construction and Tacoma School District number 10 for the Whittier Elementary Placement Project.
The Executive Director of Planning and Construction recommends that the Board of Directors approve to negotiate and award a contract to Cornerstone Construction for the design-build alternative method for Whittier Elementary Replacement Project. Funding source capital project bonds, as approved by voters on February 11th, 2020.
I move item 14.4.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? It passes. Item number 15, other business. 15.1, adoption of resolution number 2157 in support of City of Tacoma's Proposition 1, Streets 2 ballot measure. That's 2. Got it.
The superintendent recommends the Board of Directors adopt resolution number 2157, supporting Proposition 1, the City of Tacoma Street Initiative 2 ballot measure in the April 22nd, 2025 election.
I move item 15.1.
Second.
Any questions? Oh, wait. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor? It's a resolution.
You got it. Vice President McElroy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Keating, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Leon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Bombright, how do you vote?
Aye.
Resolution 2157 passes 4-0.
I will also say it passes. Okay. Item 15.2, second reading and adoption of the proposed 2025 through 2035 strategic plan goals.
Madam Vice President, this is our strategic plan for the next 10 years. You've been working on this for since August. I just want to remind those folks that are started. You've done study sessions, you've done retreats, you've surveyed the community, you've had a staff work group do things, gather information, they've presented to you. You've done a lot of work. So tonight's process is hopefully you'll consider, based on my recommendation, that you're adopting 3 goals. I would ask that you would consider a roll call vote for this, since it is a monumental event. From here, if you choose to adopt these goals, what we would do is establish some benchmarks to establish after this. If you choose not to adopt these goals, we would go back and continue to work on goals for you. So that would be our process. So with that said, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Directors review and adopt the second reading of the 2025 through 2035 strategic plan goals.
I move item 15.2.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? I also recommend a roll call vote, so General Counsel Benro.
Will do.
Yep.
Vice President McElroy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Keating, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Leon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Bombright, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, the 2025-2035 strategic plan goals are adopted.
Awesome.
I would like to just take a quick moment and just say thank you to Miss Tanisha Jumper, who led it for our staff, and we had a team of folks. I'm not going to mention all their names because I will forget some of them, but I just want to say thank you to all those that are watching. It meant a lot in there, and all those staff and community members that participated. So thank you, and more work to be done. It'll be a busy spring break. You're not off the hook yet. You have to help us identify some benchmarks on how we'll measure our success, and the team's obviously not done. So more work to become in April and May.
Are we ever off the hook?
I feel like we've had a lot of homework this school year. I'm not complaining, but thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to do homework. Yep. Item 16, board comments and reports.
I am happy to start since I have a federal update. So much. So a week ago, 7 days ago, the president signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. There is a lot that is still unknown about what that actually entails and how that will play out. It is really stressful. It's unsettling to not know for our staff, for our students and our families. What is this going to end up meaning? There have been actions that have been that have included federal funding freezes and the issuance of issuance of executive orders signed by the president. Include an order entitling "Improve Education Outcomes by Empowering Parents, States, and Communities." That's the name of the executive order from on March 20th. And we just wanted to provide a little bit of information while also acknowledging there's still a lot we don't know. But we didn't want to, we wanted to take the opportunity to acknowledge what we don't know. And that we are very closely monitoring this. The superintendent, myself, and Ms. Jumper and Ms. Medina, we are very closely working with our federal relation team to continue to assess and see what changes will come with this. This decision does reflect the administration, the federal administration's purported goals of reducing the scale and influence of the federal government while shifting responsibility for education back to the states and empowering parents and teachers locally. So what I think is important to understand is that this executive order stops short of fully closing the department, but they are taking steps to significantly reduce the workforce at this point, potentially up to half of the workforce in the Department of Education. So the shuttering of the Department of Education cannot happen without an act of Congress. Education Secretary McMahon acknowledged that fact during her confirmation hearing in February. So it seems unlikely that the lawmakers would have bipartisan support necessary to pass legislation to fully eliminate the department. But again, we don't know what that really means. I think the hope in addressing this is to help people know that when we know, we will communicate that. When we know what that means and what the actual financial impacts will be as well on top of that, which we've been monitoring since the funding freeze began. I've lost track on the date, but it's at least been 7 weeks ago. It happened pretty quickly after the president was inaugurated. And I think some important questions about the future remain unanswered. So I know that that's not that may not ease people's anxiety, but that's the reality of where we are. We don't know how this will affect the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Rights Protections in Education. There has been some suggestions that the U.S. Department of Justice will assume those responsibilities related to civil rights investigations and enforcement. And I would add that there have been steps that the way that the current Office of Civil Rights for the Department of Education have enacted their authority has been in ways that actually are in conflict with our state protections, specifically around trans youth and trans inclusion of students and non-binary students. I just wanted to share that we are very closely monitoring this situation and trying to assess what the local impacts are going to be. I recognize that has been said often tonight in relation to the STARS formula, to our budget, to the legislature. There's a lot of really unsettling unknowns. My hope is that those listening know that there is total dedication to figuring out what is this going to mean for our students, what is this going to mean for our staff and our community, I think the unknowns are just going to continue to play out. We heard some of that in our the folks that offered public comment about unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns that we're facing, that a lot of communities are facing, that I think doesn't ease any anxiety, but I think knowing that we are facing this together is really important, and an important fact to continue to communicate. So as we know more, that we will communicate whatever this looks like. But I do think that it'll take time. And the way that the federal administration has conducted the execution of these executive orders in many respects has been to create significant disruption and chaos. So I think that that's something we can continue to anticipate. It's impacting a lot of people. The other thing that and so that's the federal update, and I guess I'll pause because maybe folks might have some questions. Our students might have questions too. So I wanted to give an opportunity. No? Okay. Yeah, keep breathing, touch grass, throw axes, I don't know, all the things, do all the things. I want to do one really amazingly fun thing that I did get to do today. I got to go and be a cheerleader formally at the Bernie Glow Run today. It was a PTA event that students got to run in the gym, run the track, everything. I still have glow bracelets on, so I felt those were appropriate to continue to wear throughout the rest of the day. And the PTA bought T-shirts for all staff and students, and then at the end of each section, I don't even know what to call it, but when the students were done running, and boy did it smell like a lot in that gym by the end of it, but it was still wonderful. We got to mark off with Sharpie on the back of their T-shirts how many laps they did. One student did 61 laps, so that was the highest number that I got to write on the back of a T-shirt. And it was just a super, super fun event. And actually, City Council member Joe Bushnell was also there. And so we were co-cheerleaders in this event. And it was just a really fun thing to watch our students just have fun. It was really, really beautiful. And the staff, of course, were, really phenomenal in supporting them, and it was a super fun and hilarious event. And the PTA actually raised $17,000, and so their goal was 10. And one fun fact is they had family members from 25 different states for that are connected to the students contribute. And actually, one family member who's in Ukraine donated. So I thought those were some particularly interesting. I think that just is a reflection of the student population, the family population there. So that was pretty cool. I did get to present to a group of educators that are in an administrative program at PLU a couple weeks ago about some of the work that I've contributed to over the years within the school district and around inclusivity and safe inclusive practices for LGBTQ youth and also their families. And it was actually amazing because it was led by our very own Kate Frazier and Melissa Porter. So I was really honored to be there to talk with other educators who are moving into administrative roles. I think I was not at the board meeting 2 weeks ago due to a work commitment. And I want to just express unbelievable gratitude that I've been in advocacy for trans and non-binary youth and their families for over 15 years. And to know that I didn't have to be in this room to address opinions and beliefs that aren't our shared beliefs and values. That was a really beautiful thing for me as a parent who had a kid who was the first kid to openly transition in an elementary school many years ago. It's really meaningful. The comments tonight, I cried through most of them out of just sheer gratitude. I did, in my day job, speak with a group of educators from south of us. They were from Shelton, Tenino, Olympia, and Centralia, Tumwater, and within that entire region. And those that are standing up are educators that are standing up for the inclusion and protection of a protected class in this state. Our trans youth are facing a really concerning amount of violence and threats. And I had one dad who sobbed in my arms because of the violent threats that he faces because of who his family is and because of his values. And I think that one thing that I deeply value about Tacoma is that more of us don't tolerate that kind of violence and bigotry and are not willing to stay silent. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And fitting, Monday is Trans Day of Visibility. And in our family, it's like a holiday for us. And it's a day to celebrate the existence, contributions, and the value that trans folk have, that do and have contributed to society. And one of the ways that that's being celebrated, the city of Tacoma will be raising the trans pride flag above the Tacoma Dome for the first time in history Monday morning at 9:30. It is a giant flag. And it will be a beautiful celebration. And also, as the hateful rhetoric that continues to infiltrate society about trans people and trans youth, Some of our state senators have taken it upon themselves. They are going to be introducing a resolution Monday in honor of Trans Day of Visibility as well. There are a number of people in many places taking this opportunity to stand in their values, to stand up for the rights and the existence and the protections of trans folk and non-binary folk. And I feel that that is a really beautiful reflection of not just our district, which we've heard from multiple people that that is a value we uphold and have upheld. It's a really exhausting period of time for a lot of people. And if you are an individual who's not impacted directly by the multitude of marginalized and impacted communities, do what you can to care for the people around you. And don't be silent. Because silence does equal violence. And I'm really proud. I'm really proud of the things that we've accomplished in Tacoma, and I'm really, really proud of the board and the iterations of the board before those of us that have been sitting here. And that's something to celebrate and something to honor.
Thanks. Anyone else? Board reports?
I've been doing a few school site visits in order just to gather information around how the students, the staff are doing with regard to lots of general topics, but specifically around we're developing our board goals for the end of the summer and letting just students and staff tell me how things are going at the schools. A lot of common themes and topics have come up around learning environments, enthusiasm for learning, health and safety, mental and physical health and safety, and morale. So there's not enough time to go through all that I've learned. I'm going to be sending information to all the board on details, but I'll go through a few of the things, some highlights here, or some recent visits that I've had. So these are over the past week and a half. At IDEA, excuse me, I gotta take a drink. Learned about their mentoring project groups, which are mixed groups from 9th to 12th grade, how they really help each other learn from each other in addition to the teachers. A lot about their engineering class and welding with engineering, app design, boat building with modern computer equipment and physical equipment to make beautiful ships, boats, surfboards, paddleboards, things like that. Internships with Blue Origin, amongst many other places to get internships. At Baker, they have done amazing work decreasing their exclusion numbers over many years. That means keeping kids in school and a lot less suspension and things like that for the lay public out there. They have a very high needs special education population. They have Korean in addition to Spanish. I did not know about all the language options there. This was wonderful. There's a lot of evidence around physical activity really helping kids learn better. And as we know, there's not always PE or recess in middle and high school. So they have some very organized ways that their staff have, right after lunch, they go out and have organized like red light, green light games. They walk, they play unorganized but semi-organized play, move their bodies so that they can learn better when they go back in school. They've implemented a really impressive cell phone policy over the past year, including headsets. And 3 of the students I had in a subgroup told me specifically how much less stress they are having this year because of their fear and angst over people taking pictures of them and posting things on social media, and how this year that's all gone. And then they said it's amazing. Mount T learned about the Union Jobs Fair. I was there for that event that they had. Learned, it was packed with students in there learning about pipe fitter jobs, plumbers, firefighters, nursing jobs. It was really wonderful to see everyone in there. They're having a intercultural family night coming up on April 2nd from 5 to 8, so please go to that. Communities and Schools is really active there, helping the kids with their mentoring and tutoring, so really excited to hear how great things were happening there. Got to see the physics class launch their paper rockets and do experiments with that. Lincoln, we heard about the Exploration Outdoors grant that you mentioned, that they're up at the National Park at Mount Tahoma for multi-day camping, in addition to maritime skills out on very large boats that then they bring other adults in their family and staff on, and they teach other people their skills they've learned. This is super important. These are communities that not always traditionally get out into the outdoors and camp and learn so much in that environment. There's so much evidence around mental health and physical health wellness for humans goes up when you spend more time outside. So the Palmer Scholars continue to be very active there and do great work for helping kids get on to next levels. FOSS, the kids just talked about how little exclusion they feel like there. There's less exclusion, easy to find friends, less bullying that they've seen in the past, diverse discussion groups amongst all cultures, socioeconomic groups there. I learned about the Hansen's razor. I'm familiar with Occam's razor in medicine, but Hansen's razor is, quote, I'm not going to use the exact word that they use because I don't like one of the words in here, but never prescribe malice to what could also be attributed to someone's lack of knowledge. This is part of a way of learning how to break the cycle of revenge and getting to forgiveness in our society, which we need a lot more of right now. At Stadium, Multicultural Assembly occurred last week. I was present for that. It was really exciting to see Puyallup tribal members talking about their traditions. So, las tradiciones ahí del grupo de Stadium Multicultural de la nación de los Puyallups. Estaba muy bonito aprender de eso. Asian Pacific Cultural Center gave a great presentation about all the things that they're doing to help the community. So, los Asios de Pacífica. Centro Cultural también existe por todo Pierce County. Hawaiian dance, drum performance from a student who is, I believe, a senior with her teacher, gave an amazing, powerful performance in Hawaiian dance. I presented some information around the Peruvian culture. Yo también hablé un poco sobre la cultura peruana y la historia de Perú. And I too want to mention the importance of the respect and support we need to give all groups, especially all the marginalized groups we've heard about, specifically right now, the trans groups that are being attacked. And it's just nothing that this board or people in leadership the vast majority of our staff, I know, believe this. There could be outliers out there, so we can't say everybody, but definitely on this board, we're here to support all students.
Okay, I'll keep it quick. Sorry, thank you. I'll keep it quick. I just want to kind of capitalize on what Kari brought up earlier about the bus system, and we had an electric bus ribbon cutting yesterday, which was super fun down at Owens Beach. And I think what's so exciting about this process, and I really just wanted to bring it up to sort of talk about all the players that came together to make this happen. And in particular, want to thank the Washington State Department of Ecology and the EPA, Federal EPA Clean School Bus Program, who provided the funding for these 14 buses. And then again, as Kari pointed out, we're going to be getting 2 more buses in addition later on for our special ed kids, and also McKinney-Vento. So, there were so many people who came together to work on these grants and get this money, and it was a lot of money, 14 buses. I mean, that's a lot. First Student, obviously, is who we contract with, but they're the ones who are buying these buses and are getting them, serving our kids. The Tacoma Public Utilities, I thought it was great. All the people that spoke really spoke to the fact that this would not have happened if Tacoma Public Utilities had not, stepped up, gotten committed towards this, worked on, charging stations and all these different things. And so I want to thank Tacoma Public Utilities, Pierce Transit, Parks Tacoma, Pierce County Planning and Public Works. All these folks played together with Tacoma Public Schools and First Student to not only get the money, but make this a reality. And then at the end, and the students, SAMI students were there. Two SAMI students spoke, and they were both very articulate and passionate about the importance of using electric buses. And then we took a little jaunt through the park on the bus, and it was really fun to listen to the students, because a bunch of SAMI kids were there, and they were like going, "It's so quiet," and it's funny because you could actually pretty much hear a pin drop on that bus and everybody was quiet for a second so we could see. Okay, oh, it really is so quiet. So that was great, and the kids were super excited about doing something to save the environment and to be better stewards and all of that. So I just am proud to be Tacoma Public Schools part of that and taking care of our community.
And Director Bombright and I volunteered to redecorate them at any time. Just you can watch the media if they need any kind of redecoration. Director Bombright and I are on.
And to explain what that meant is that I know it's a beautiful school bus, but it looks like every other school bus you see. It's just yellow, and I don't want to say boring, but I want to just say there's nothing on it. So I just suggested that maybe we could paint a lightning rod on it and say, "I'm electric," and I'm powered by water, and really just sort of speak to what it is that we're doing. And I thought the people who do the regulations for each of the agencies, they paled. They were just, Josh is like, "I'm going to get you spray cans. We're going to go out and paint these." And everybody else was going, So just wanted to say that if some of our new buses start showing that they're electric in some artistic way, you can blame Josh. Anyway, so no, I'm just kidding.
Can we get rims that glow?
Yeah, we could get
Malik?
some
Glitter.
General
There's
Counsel.
all kinds of
We're-
glitter, flashing lights. I mean, this should be a lot more fun.
Yes?
We're just,
Can I-
Kari's up,
Kari
all
said
for-
yes.
Kari's all for
Vice
it.
President,
You see,
gavel's
yeah,
down,
handle
gavel's
these
down.
people. We were
Anyway,
almost there.
So that's it. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, because it really is magical what we're still able to do in difficult times to keep the focus on our eyes on the prize. Thank you.
And with that, I've heard myself speak a lot tonight, so I've got nothing for you. Item 17, announcement of next regular board meetings on April 3rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. right here. We'll have a business meeting. April 17th, 2025, we'll have a study session. April 24th, 2025, we'll have another business meeting here. And with that,
And so the reason, just want to clarify for the public, why April 3rd is not our normal business meeting. It's usually going to be the 10th, but because
we on
that's
spring break.
spring break, so we moved it up a week. So I just want to make sure if people were thinking, that's odd, why are the dates all funny? But there's spring break. Sorry.
And if you ever have a question about the calendar, please go to our website, www.tacomapublicschool or tacomaschools.org. We're adjourned.
Well done.